The movie begins with a woman in a wedding dress known as the bride, crying and covered in blood while a mysterious man comes closer and tells her that she knows the reason why he wants to kill her. She tries to convince this man, whose name is Bill, that she is carrying his baby, but he doesn't listen, and he shoots her in the head and assumes she is dead. After being in a coma for 4 years, the bride, aka Black Mamba, is fueled by an insatiable desire for revenge against the leader of the deadly Viper assassination squad, Bill, and his other colleagues. She vows to get even with every person who contributed to the loss of her unborn child and messed up her entire life. Black Mamba is also a former assassin and ex-member of the deadly Viper assassination squad. The bride, Black Mamba, stops by a house and rings the doorbell. Soon as the door opened, the woman behind it was shocked to see the bride alive. Right away, the bride has a flashback, and the woman was part of the squad that assaulted her in the past and left her for dead. The woman is known as Venita Green. The two engage in a hand-to-hand fight, destroying Venita's living room. They stop fighting and hide their weapons behind their backs when Nikki, Venita's daughter, comes back from school. Nikki questions why the house is in a heap. Then Venita told her that their dog did all of the messing and ordered Nikki to go upstairs to her room. Venita asks the bride if she would like a cup of coffee, and the bride agrees, during which Venita apologizes for her doings in the past and tells her that she changed and has a family now. The bride refuses to accept her apology. So now Venita proposes they meet tonight and settle it once and for all. The bride agrees to that. Then they start a smooth conversation, but Venita attempts to shoot the bride with the hidden gun in a cereal box while pretending to make lunch for her daughter. But she misses her. Suddenly, the bride impales her with a knife to the chest, killing her. Nikki witnesses her mother's death and is told by the bride that if one day Nikki wants to avenge her mother's death, she will be waiting. The bride leaves the house and enters a truck. Then she took out her notebook and crossed out Venita's name from the dead list she had written before. Venita was second on the list. The name written at the beginning was already cancelled. A flashback reveals the massacre that occurred 4 years ago. The bride was shot 4 years ago in a chapel located in the city of Texas. 9 people were killed. The sheriff of the city went to the chapel where the crime was committed to see the massacre. The sheriff informs his deputy that this was the work of professionals and explains why he thought so by noting how clean the job was. He assumes it was the Mexican mafia. Going closer to the bodies laying on the floor, the sheriff finds out that the bride was alive. Then she was taken to a hospital. As soon as she arrived, she went into a coma. A woman named Ellie Driver visited the hospital where the bride is being treated. She tried to kill her with a deadly injection after disguising herself as a nurse, but she was stopped by a phone call from Bill, who tells her to abort the mission, saying killing her in her sleep is beneath him, and he has even more terrible things planned out for her. Ellie Driver is one of the assassins in the deadly Viper assassination squad. She has a distinct feature in that she wears an eye patch. 4 years later, the bride wakes up. Traumatized by what happened, she started crying when she realized she had lost her baby. As she was crying, she heard a footstep coming towards her room. She pretended to be asleep as a hospital worker, Buck, and a middle-aged man walked in. Buck is paid $75 by the other man in order to sleep with her, and he informs him that her womb is damaged, so he doesn't have to worry about impregnating her. After telling him this, Buck closed the door and left. As the man was approaching her, she attacked and killed him. As soon as Buck returned to the room, he saw the dead body of the man lying there. When she sees Buck, she remembers how he used to rape her sick body. After she interrogated him, she killed him too. She steals his clothes and the keys to his truck. Once inside the truck, she learns how to walk again by wiggling her toes one at a time, which took 13 hours. She decided to get her revenge on all 5 members of the deadly Viper assassination squad, and she drove away. She decided to go after O-Ren Ishii as she was the easiest to find. O-Ren was born on an American military base in Tokyo, Japan. A half-Japanese, half-Chinese American army brat, she made her first acquaintance with death at the age of 9. It was at that age that she witnessed the deaths of her parents at the hands of Japan's most ruthless Yakuza boss. After that, she swore revenge. Luckily for her, he got interest on kids in a bad manner. At 11, she got her revenge. By 20, she was one of the top female assassins in the world. At 25, she did her part in killing 9 innocent people, including the bride's unborn child, in a small wedding chapel in El Paso, Texas. But on that day, 4 years ago, she made one big mistake. She should have killed 10. The bride takes a flight to Okinawa, Japan. She went to a bar and met a Japanese guy who is the owner of the bar. He offered her a seat and told his employees to bring her tea. As she sat down, they started to chat. He told her that she is good at pronouncing Japanese words and that she should learn more about them. He continued and asked her what brought her here. She told him that she had come to meet a man and that she had never met this man before. The Japanese guy asked her who the man was. She replied as Hattori Hanzo. When he heard this name, the man was shocked and asked her why she wanted him. She tells him she needs a sword to kill vermin. The Japanese guy at the bar turned out to be Hattori Hanzo. Then he took her upstairs and showed her his sword collection. She was fascinated by his collection. As she held a sword in her hands, he threw a baseball at her and she sliced it in 2 halves. He soon realizes why she is there after witnessing her slice the baseball, and he tells her that he would not make her a sword. She then asks him to sell one to her, and he informs her that his swords are not for sale. He now has a change of heart and decides to craft a sword for her, after finding out that she was going to use it to kill Bill, a former student of his. After a month, he finished the sword and told her that it was his finest sword yet, and the first one he had made in 2 decades. He lets her know it is sharp enough to cut through anything. She thanks him and decides to go after O-Ren Ishii. It was 1 year after the massacre in El Paso, Texas, that Bill backed his Nippon progeny financially and philosophically in her Shakespearean-scale power struggle with the other Yakuza clans over who would rule vice in the city of Tokyo. When the final sword was sheathed, it was O-Ren Ishii and her powerful posse, the Crazy 88, that proved the victory. Sophie Fatal is O-Ren's best friend and lawyer. She was also a former student of Bill's. Gogo Yubari is O-Ren's bodyguard. She is 17 years old and very crazy as she kills people for no apparent reason. Johnny Mo is the head general of Crazy 88 and her security team. O-Ren Ishii is now the head of the crime council that was supposed to be once by boss Tanaka as she comes into power. He claims she is not full blood, unlike him and his fellow council members, and does not deserve to rule, and she has disrespected their ancestors by deciding to be the leader of the clan. O-Ren beheaded him immediately and warned the other members not to bring up the fact that she is half Chinese, Japanese, and American, or they would suffer the same fate as Tanaka. The bride takes a flight to Tokyo, where she tracks O-Ren down at her hangout location known as the House of Blue Leaves. While in the restroom, the bride recognizes Sophie's cell phone ringtone, the same one she had while she was present at the massacre. Calling out O-Ren's name, the bride chopped off Sophie's arm and challenged O-Ren to a fight. O-Ren sent Gogo and her personal army, the Crazy 88, to defeat the bride. There was a big clash between the whole Crazy 88 and the bride, but no one can defeat her. She was in a rage. She chopped each and every person in the gang without showing a single drop of mercy. Following this, the bride faced O-Ren in the snowy garden of the club. After a short fight, the bride sliced off the top of O-Ren's head. After killing O-Ren, the bride informs Sophie that she is alive for 2 reasons. The first is for information. She tortures Sophie for information about the remaining members of the deadly Viper assassination squad, and Sophie tells her everything she needs to know. Then she informed her that the second reason she keeps her alive is to inform Bill about what had happened, and that she is coming for all of them. After telling her, she dropped her off at a nearby hospital. When Bill visits her, Sophie tells him all that happened and why she was kept alive. The movie ends when Bill asks Sophie if the Black Mamba knows her child is still alive. What a twist, right? Beatrice, aka Black Mamba, or Kiddo, is driving to a location where she hopes to find Bill and kill him. She narrates how she has killed a lot of people to get to this point, but she is not going to rest until she finds Bill and kills him for putting a bullet in her head 4 years ago. A bride and groom are preparing for their wedding 4 years ago at the Two Pines Chapel in Texas. The groom's parents coach the couple on what they should do on their wedding day, and the soon-to-be couple listens intently. Beatrice, the bride-to-be, is heavily pregnant and on the verge of giving birth. When the bride's mother asks whether any of her family will come, she denies, but her friends support her, saying they are the only family she would need. Black Mamba, or as she is now called, Little Angel, goes outside to get some air, but really to run away from the groom's mother's pesky questions about her family. Outside, she runs into Bill, who is playing a pipe. She is shocked and asks how he found her. He only says that because he is Bill. They return to the church, and she introduces him to her future husband and family. They're all shocked to meet him. The rehearsal ceremony continues with Black Mamba begging Bill to behave and still respect her wishes to get married. Bill only looks on, sadly, from the bride's side. As Beatrice is called over by her friends, Bill ushers in his kill squad, which begins to spray everyone in the church with bullets. The scene ends with Bill shooting a pregnant Beatrice in the head. Out in the Texas desert, Bill talks to his brother Bud about how he is running for his life and wants Bud to help catch Beatrice if she comes to him. Bud accepts the plea from his brother. Bud then goes into his workplace, a club where he works as a bouncer. His boss is displeased with his tardiness and sends him on leave for a few days. He returns to his RV at night and unwinds with a beer. Unknown to him, Black Mamba is hiding underneath the truck, and when she thinks he is relaxed enough, she attacks, kicking the door open. She is met by Buddy's gun and is shot at point blank with a salt bullet. Buddy then injects her with an anesthetic and she falls asleep. He takes her sword and then calls up Elle with information about her gravesite. He also wants her to come over with $1 million in cash to pawn off the Hattori Hanzo sword he has gotten from her. Bud then digs an unmarked grave far away in the desert and buries Black Mamba alive. Black Mamba begins to reminisce about her training with Master Pai Mei inside the coffin. Bill takes her to meet Pai Mei, a legendary martial arts master, but warns her to be subservient to him, as he will kill her immediately if he senses her disrespecting him. Black Mamba begins her training and eventually earns Pai Mei's trust. Now, all alone in the dirt under the ground in darkness, she begins implementing the training she learned and consistently punches the weak point of the coffin. She manages to break the coffin, and the soil comes down as she goes up for air and manages to free herself from the grave. She traverses the hot desert on foot and arrives back at Buddy's place just as Elle does with her bag of cash. Elle and Bud discuss Black Mamba, and Elle has her sights set on the sword. Bud opens the suitcase containing his money, and as he rummages through it, he meets a Black Mamba that strikes at him several times before he can get away. Elle proceeds to narrate to a dying Bud the story of how deadly a Black Mamba's venom is. She picks up her money and the sword after he dies, and is on her way when she is met by a flying kick from a resurrected Beatrice. They get into a deadly fight, but Beatrice is disadvantaged by not having a sword of her own. She stumbles into Bud's sword in one of his rooms and equips it. It appears Bud had lied about selling his sword. She is now on equal footing with Elle. Elle is questioned by Black about how she lost her eye. She says Pai Mei took it from her after she disobeyed him. She then poisoned his fish eggs and he died. Elle wants to kill Black just as she killed her master. As they lock swords, however, she steals her other eye, using the same technique as Pai Mei. As a blind Elle screams and stumbles alone in the RV, Beatrice goes to find Bill. This time she visits Esteban, Bill's adoptive father, who raised him when he was young. She immediately asks him where Bill is, and he instead tells her a long tale about how Bill came to like blondes. He mentions Bill shooting her in the head. He would have been much nicer and cut her face instead, proving he is just as ruthless as Bill. Despite this, Esteban helps Beatrice predict that they're going to meet again. Beatrice heads out to the Hacienda Hotel where Bill is staying to go find him. She enters the room with a gun in her hand and is immediately confronted by her daughter, who is holding a toy gun. A bit confused, she has to feign death as a play against her daughter, who she is totally defenseless against. She didn't even know she was alive. As she reunites with her daughter, Beatrice spends some time with her, listening to her stories, all within earshot of Bill, who is close by, but she cannot kill in front of her daughter. They put her to bed, and Beatrice watches a movie with her daughter until she falls completely asleep, and then she tucks her in. She goes to the living room to find Bill waiting. He gets her to sit down and then shoots a truth serum dart he has developed into her leg. They then begin talking. Bill interrogates her about why she ran away from him. Beatrice narrates that on her last assignment, she realized she was pregnant while being tracked by a deadly assassin. She had come to a truce with the enemy assassin, who was a woman too, after pleading with her that they don't kill each other. After showing her a pregnancy test, the assassin backed away since she was a mother too. Beatrice then states that she had complete faith in Bill prior to her pregnancy, but she decided to choose her daughter's future after that. She, however, never thought that Bill would take revenge on her like that. Bill then replies that she had thought wrong. They proceed to fight with their swords, using martial arts skills while still in a seated position. Getting a chance, Beatrice hits Bill with Pai Mei's 5 fingers of death technique. He is surprised that Pai Mei had taught her the technique, as he had never taught anyone else. She apologizes for hiding the truth from him. He walks 5 steps onto the lawn and collapses as a result of his heart exploding in his body. Beatrice takes her sleeping daughter away from the hotel. Next morning at a new place, Beatrice cries alone in the bathroom, happy that she has survived and gotten her baby back. She wipes her tears away before returning to the living room to spend time with her daughter. Thrilling film comes to an end. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.